Well, digital has obviously wreaked massive change across journalism around the world. Everything from the way that people read and consume the news to the sort of business models that newspapers and other news organizations are experimenting with. You could say it's been a huge force for good because you can get your news instantly, you can get your news wherever you are on any kind of device. It's also really put a lot of pressure on traditional media companies, especially regional newspapers in the United States, for example, who are really struggling with the transition to a sort of digital business model. So digital's had a huge impact on markets that have traditionally had, repressive access to news or limited access to news in places, in the Arab Spring, for example, and you had, YouTube was a huge sort of way to spread information. Twitter came into its own, and in countries like Tunisia and places like that, Egypt, when a way of getting the news out, a way of showing the wider world what was going on. But by the same token, it's also, those countries have also been, become very dangerous places for journalists to operate in and to work in. Journalists have been a fair game in Syria. There's the terrible the execution of James Foley and others there. So there's been a real shift in the way the press is viewed in certain countries, and it's a pretty worrying time. So what the internet has done and what digital publishing has done is, really lowered the barriers to entry for individuals and for companies who want to make news and want to provide news. And in the US, there's been the last couple of years, there's been a real growth in the number of new sites, new aggregation sites, and sites started by people like Ezra Klein, who was from the Washington Post, who's working for a company called Vox. Nate Silver at the New York Times started 538, sort of spun it out of the New York Times, and is, really trying to data crunch journalism. And these individuals who have a big reach online, and now with the internet they can reach audiences, but they don't need a kind of the overarching structure of a newspaper or a kind of parent company publisher. They can do it themselves. So there's been a lot of that, and I think that's quite healthy, because it's there are certain models out there and they're trying new things. Not all of them will work, but hopefully some of them will, and it's good for the industry. Certainly, subscription has become a model which is working online for lots of publishers. I think the advertising market has kind of gone away, or is vastly reduced from where it was, and newspapers are struggling because to cope with that loss of revenue. But subscription is a way forward. It's a different kind of model, and the margins are different, but it's a way of generating recurring revenue for a publisher or a newspaper from readers, and to help newspapers survive. I think there are examples in the US of publishers using events to they have free access. There's Recode, for example, is a digital sort of tech site. It's free to use, but they have a very big conferences business, and they make a lot of their money from that. So they have a sort of strong online brand. So there are hybrid models at work. Some companies are doing partial subscription or metered access, and the FT has metered access in a subscription model, and you sort of mirror, you marry that with advertising and with events, and you can come up with a model which works. So I think there'll be more of those, more hybrid models.
So what my product does allows you to shop what you watch. I think we say that we cover all products from all of your popular TV shows. In a nutshell, we build a scene timeline for last night's episode of Scandal, and in every scene from every character, we identify every product that they're wearing in that scene, and then offer the shopping and buy links.